Welcome to another episode of the People Over Perks podcast by Leapsome, where we go behind the scenes with HR and people operations leaders to uncover how they're building a high-performance culture in their company. In today's episode, I speak with Ulrike Schadeberg, the Head of People and Global Executive Recruitment at Cherry Ventures. I talked to Ulrike about how she balances the different parts of her role and how she supports the early-stage startups from the Cherry Ventures portfolio, and much, much more. Enjoy the conversation. So, Ulrike, thank you for joining us.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
And so whereabouts in the world are you right now?
I am sitting in our Cherry office here in Berlin on Linienstraße. So I'm broadcasting out of a Risikogebiet. So I'm sitting in Mitte. Oh.
Okay, nice, excellent. And so you are the head of people and global executive recruitment at Cherry.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about Cherry Ventures and how do you describe your role there?
Yep. So Cherry Ventures is a Berlin-based but European-wide investing seed stage fund. So our sweet spot is seed stage, meaning we invest in founders that have no numbers, no traction, just great potential and a great idea. And we are usually among the first investors, and that's basically our business. And then we support and grow and build sustainable companies with them, which turn into unicorns, hopefully within the next 5 or 10 years.
Excellent.
This is what Cherry Ventures does. And what do? So I am everything people. So I'm in charge for everything that's for our organization, so for Cherry directly, and it's as little as all the people related admin stuff, over to recruitment, cultural aspects, leadership topics. So it's all in one. And then I also work with our portfolio with our founders.
Yeah, interesting. And so I think that's super interesting for your role specifically, that obviously you get to do the internal side with Cherry and also support your portfolio. And I'd love to come back to that.
Yeah.
But to begin with, it would be great if you could take us back to the start a little bit. So how and why did you get into HR to begin with?
Yeah, so actually there is no fame and glory story behind. So it was actually by accident, because I actually started to study to become a teacher, an English and a history teacher, but loving that in high school and actually studying to become a teacher is totally different. So after 4 semesters, after the German 4 diploma, I decided that's not the route I want to go, because you can only be a teacher. There's no left and right, so to say. And then I decided to, for a new bachelor's program, and in between I had a bit of time, and then I was just curious to see what's out there, and I ended up doing an internship in the field of HR, in the field of recruitment with, back then it was Daimler Chrysler, which is now just Daimler. And this was my first, let's say, tap into the role. And then I did another few internships throughout all my studies, but I always ended up in HR. And I just liked it the most, because I'm very curious. So if I learn, I like the process of learning, and not so much the result, that I actually know something new, and that really helps with HR. So there was a lot to explore, a lot to ask. So many people around, and that's how it all started.
Interesting, cool. Thanks for sharing that. And so remind me again, how large is Cherry as an organization right now in terms of headcount?
Total headcount, we are 19 people, with one person being at the MIT doing an MBA at the moment, and the other one being on maternity leave. So we are 17 active people at the moment.
And so, I mean, your early, some of the early roles you had in your career were at KPMG and Zalando.
Yeah.
Obviously, KPMG being one of the top 4 consulting firms, and Zalando being one of Europe's largest employers on the tech side. And so, when it comes to headcount, obviously, very, very different organizations. What would you say are the biggest learnings that you took away from those experiences that you could apply to Cherry? And what are some of the things that you had to, perhaps relearn along the way?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because the 2 organizations I worked for before, they're like left and right. Yeah, it's like day and night. It's completely different. But what I learned at KPMG, and that was with me through all of my career, was definitely processes. So KPMG is a machine when it comes to processes. I mean, they also sell shared service centers to other companies. So you have a process for everything, and even HR is structured by processes. So here, I mean, when you are in that machine, you sometimes hate it because everything is broken down. But after taking a broader view on it, it really helps to have clear responsibilities and to grow based on stable processes, and it also avoids mistakes, and it makes you much faster, and you can always look back and say, okay, this happened because of this and that, and this is why we need to change it. So this was something I learned, and the hard way, because I'm something that I could then embrace at Zalando. I'm also somebody that actually doesn't like to follow processes, so I always try to find my way around, knowing that the process needs to stay, but business comes first, and if you have to take a small detour, then we try to find a detour. And so this is something I learned at KPMG, which I think is really valuable. And something I also learned, which is something I could apply later on, is if you have too many interfaces, things slow down. So it's sometimes it's good to pool responsibility in one person, and don't split up too much. And if you split up too much, then responsibility and ownership gets lost along the way. Yeah, then always somebody else thinks the other person is taking care of it. And this actually really helped to then step into Zalando, where there were when I started, there already was an HR department. They were doing, for the stage show, right? They were doing great HR work, but of course there was a lot to be built, because we were like hyper growing. And here it was good to always have the fallback of saying, okay, we have clear processes, we know how it works, responsibility is within the person, so that really helped. And what have I learned at Zalando, which I could take over now? A lot. So I stayed there six years, and I started at Zalando when the company was about 2,000 people and roughly 2 warehouses, and I left after the IPO, after Zalando had 16 countries opened up and had roughly 11,000 people. So there was a lot of growth. And when it comes down to what I said before, responsibility, here I learned a lot. So if you see something, you said this needs to be done, it's not somebody doing it, you do it. And then you can really have an impact and change things. And you also learn a lot along the way, because some things work and some things don't work. And you can also be thankful for the things that don't work, because they also teach you a lot. So this is actually something I learned there.
Interesting.
And at the end, of course, Zalando became more, bigger and bigger, and there were more stakeholders involved. So here the learnings were also that if there are too many people involved, you slow down.
Yes, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And were there things that when you started your role at Cherry, you thought to yourself, oh, I could just drag and drop what I have learned at Zalando into Cherry, and then realize that actually that just didn't work at all in the new environment?
You mean things that did not work here because of size and business model, because we're so different?
Yeah.
So the majority of learnings that did not work were actually due to size, and we are a partnership. Yeah, so our partners, they've started Cherry, and for them it's their flesh and blood, as you say in German, your flesh and blood. So they are still involved a lot, and they are take a lot of things really seriously. Where I would say, okay, this is not management topic anymore, but because they believe that they need to be involved, and it's in management should not delegate things that they believe it's too small. So here we had some topics where we said, okay, this I tried to do stuff that was a bit too corporate for our side, for our size. Yeah. So when we had something we wanted to change, or not to change, but to start, like saying, hey, we need to draft our values again. And then I was, in my corporate HR style saying, okay, we need a storyline, and we need to talk to these people first, and da. And they said, okay, there are no hierarchies. Don't need that. We will just talk to the people at the coffee machine. So this is what was different.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine that. As you say, when there's a process for everything, and you want to apply that, and realizing that, as you say, the coffee machine also just does the job.
Yeah, it does the job. Yeah, and then there's also something that's really unique to VC, to venture capital, is that relationship building is really important, and your network is really important. So from the outside, sometimes the whole business seems to be very close, so it's kind of hard to sneak in, and to not a lot of people know how it actually works, and so we always have to watch our relationships in our network. Yeah. So you cannot burn bridges, because you might need them sooner or later. So that's something we need to always have in the back of our head.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. And then so with your career, would you consider yourself a generalist, or would you say that you have a specialty in a certain area?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm becoming more and more of a generalist, although there are aspects of HR which I've just touched. Yeah, so I wouldn't say I can develop like leadership learning journey from beginning to end. Yeah, so I've, as a business partner, activated and driven those topics, but I had a great center of expertise behind me who were then, doing all the little tricks and actually the concepts. But so I'm a generalist, but I do have a specialty, and this or something I see myself standing for, and then also get feedback that a lot, and that is clarity. So I like to have lean processes. I like to do clear communication, which also involves honesty, which sometimes hurts. Yeah, because if I'm also a big fan of regular feedback, and it helps you grow. At the beginning, you don't want to hear it, and I feel that myself the same way. So I also, when somebody's giving me feedback, I'm blushing. I'm like, oh my god, I'm a bit embarrassed. But then I walk away, and I'm like, oh my god, thank God that person told me, and now I can finally change it. So that's one thing. And then I have a coaching degree, and which means I like to do a lot of discussion and a lot of let's say relationship building and a lot of convincing through one-on-one talks. Yeah, that's also something that I would say is a specialty of mine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not super special. I believe a lot of HR people have that too, but this is how I can describe myself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. And so you mentioned you're in Berlin, in Germany right now, and obviously a topic that's on everybody's mind is the whole COVID-19 pandemic. How has that changed your work setup at Cherry? And what is the current situation like? I know you're in the office right now, for example. But how does it look like for you with the pandemic at the moment?
So for Cherry itself, so for our fund, let's say we became we were remote friendly before, because our investment team is all over Europe, meeting founders, meeting other VCs, joining panels, joining meetups. So they have been out and about a lot, and they now travel less. So we moved them into, so they're not all headquartered in Berlin anymore and then travel to the locations. They're now relocated to the areas they work in. Yeah, so we have people on the ground in Paris, on the ground in London. So there's a lot less travel. And for the Berlin team, we said we change into a hybrid model, because at the moment, also from a security side, we as a company, we don't want to force anybody who doesn't feel safe into the firm. And especially if you look outside, with the weather, then they all have to take the subway, and you never know. And like I said, we are in the middle of Berlin Mitte, so I rather have the people sitting at home being safe, and so everybody can decide if they want to work in the office or at home. So this has actually changed. So we were a bit more office centric before, and we now moved into the new setup. So this has actually changed for Cherry. And now I forgot the second question. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. And so I'm wondering as well if do you have certain measures in place in the office to keep people safe?
Of course. I mean, our office manager was really all over it. She even removed, when you want to open the cupboard to get a cup, she even removed the doors. So you don't have to touch it anymore. You can just take it out. And at the beginning, it was a bit weird. We were all looking like, okay, so what's going on here? But of course, we are handshake free, and everybody in the office has to wear a mask. And we also ask all meetings that come in to wear a mask. So we tell them before, so nobody can say, oh, I haven't heard of it. And we have masks here, so if you forgot yours, you can have ours. And we have stocked up cleaning and all of that. So basically what the majority is doing out there. And we prefer virtual meetings, which is also in line with our strategy for our employees, that we say, okay, so we are remote first. That means that we do meetings virtually. So everybody has the same prerequisite. So it's not that there are 5 people in the office and that poor guy on the screen needs to somehow make his way into the meeting. So everybody is on the screen. So everybody has the same prerequisites.
Yeah, so creating that experience, being remote first, is obviously something that everybody's having to learn to adapt to. Yeah, it's challenging, interesting. And so jumping back then to your team at Cherry, how is the HR team structured, or the people team, as you might refer to it?
So there are some clear HR topics and processes which my people team takes care of, and the people team is really small, so it's myself and my colleague. I have a colleague supporting me, basically only taking over the majority of the recruitment topics, but I have a great we call it strategic resources team around me, which also support with topics that would be purely HR in other companies. So our executive assistant and our office management does take care of some stuff like helping with team events and all of that. So that's with them. So and then also with our platform manager, she does some stuff that would in other companies be with HR, and also vice versa. So when we talk about building resources for founders, like setting up webinars and so on and so forth, this is sometimes done by platform, sometimes done by myself. So there is a bit of fluid. It's a bit fluid.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And who do you report to?
Well, that's also interesting, because we, with 17 people and no clear hierarchies, I have let's say a clear reporting line on paper, and that's our CFO. But it really depends on the topic. With some topics, like with our values, for example, I work with one partner. With some recruitment topics, I work with another partner. So I basically work with everybody. And this is also reflected in our performance review. So we do performance review twice a year. And then it's usually 2 different partners every time. So I get a lot of feedback from different people.
Okay, great. And so you've been with the business for 2 years now. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so like throughout that time, how do you measure your success in your role?
Yep. So I mean, I can talk about how I would measure it for Cherry, for us as a fund, and also for myself. So there are some clear KPIs for Cherry, and I mean the most obvious one is hirings we have done, which covers the executive hiring side. So we look at all the positions we can fill, or we could fill our portfolio with. So this is pretty clear, and we do have some KPIs, and they are measured by impact roles. So there, of course, the numbers for C-level hires are a bit lower than for, let's say, juniors or other hires we have facilitated. So here I do have some KPIs, and then for the rest, it's well, you could say it's employee happiness. So it's attrition rate, how fast we hire, how fast or slow we lose people, how we tackle topics, and how proud everybody is to work here. Also looking at development of people, what we have done, projects we have fulfilled. So this is rather soft, but it's along the HR value chain.
Okay. And that makes sense. And so really, you've just covered like your two separate sides of your role. So there's the head of people side and the recruitment side. And so how, like, on your average week, perhaps, like, how are you splitting your time, and do you consider them two very separate roles, or how do you think about that blend?
It is two separate roles. So I have two different heads. So actually three. I have the Cherry head, I have the portfolio head, and then there is, is it recruitment or is it rest, which is, head of HR. So there is, of course, there is no average week, but it's like I said, since my colleague supports on the recruitment side, I do the overall steering. So I set up the strategy, and then I work with her on recruitment channels, on recruitment automation, on tooling, and also work on resource building for founders when it comes to recruitment. Like, we last resources or last white papers we wrote was about how to draft a role description, and for all the Germans, the hiccups around the Allgemeines Gleichbehandlungsgesetz, around the AGG. So traps you can tap into. And but my colleague actually does the day-to-day recruitment work. And what I do, I have a lot of calls with executives that come in from our network, and I elaborate what we have, if there are any roles within our portfolio where they could fit. I talk to them what they're looking for. So it's actually, what do you call it, like talent pipeline management for the executive side. And I do have like a network or a curated list of headhunters and interims manager I talk to, and I select, and there's also some work involved. So I meet a lot of them, talk to them, see what they do, see if they can help or not help. So this is the recruitment side.
And what are the biggest challenges that you're seeing at the moment with regards to the recruiting side?
The biggest challenges I see with the recruitment side, when COVID started, the talent market has a bit collapsed. But since, especially for Berlin, since it was so heated up, it actually feels, for me also, it feels good. It feels like, okay, we are, getting a bit grounded now, also when it comes to, expectations and salaries. And so this happened, but I could also see that senior talent and like specialists, for them, it has really changed. So it's still hard to hire great product managers, and so that is good, and then it has recovered really fast. So I would say the challenges for recruitment I see at the moment are not as different as they have been before. Yeah. So that's how I would describe it. At least for us, I know for the people looking for jobs, it's different. But for us as somebody hiring, the challenges stay the same. Can be good and bad.
And so the recruitment side is obviously one of the ways that you support your portfolio companies. Can you give us an overview of some of the many other ways that Cherry as an organization support your portfolio?
Yeah, of course. So I actually call myself the HR hotline for everything. So there is no a speciality where we can not help. And if I don't have the answer, I usually find somebody that has the answer. And but maybe I can describe how we work with founders, and then it goes along. So as soon as we have invested, I have an HR onboarding with our founders, and they talk to me where they stand, and talk to me about the first year roadmap or milestone planning. And then we start thinking about, okay, so what kind of organization are they looking to build? Is it international? Is it German? What's the language like, because this has all implications on hiring and so on and so forth. And then we also say, okay, so look at an hiring stage they want to make, and then we have the first, let's say, working package for us, because then we support them with hiring. That can be seniors they need, but it can also be, okay, we need 5 marketing managers on the ground. We have no idea where to find them and then how. Yeah, so then we have a talent pool. We tell them, okay, this is an ATS system you need or you don't need. This is how you set up a recruitment process. This is the contract templates you need to have in place. So we have like an HR starter kit we can just push across the table and say, okay, now you can start. This is how, where, and what you need to do. And then my colleague starts with the operational work, depending on what they're looking for. It can be LinkedIn research, can be looking in our talent pool, can be starting with job descriptions and so on and so forth. And then we just stay in contact a lot at the beginning, because then topics like, okay, should we offer ESOP and VSOP? How does it work? How do we split? Do you have salary benchmarks? This like all those questions that are coming in. So I talk to them quite a lot at the beginning. And since it's only me and we have more and more founders, since we do more and more investments, I also try to leverage our founders network and the broader network we have and the expertise in my team. So what we do is, if I get a question like, how do I split up my ESOP pool, I usually have 2 or 3 other founders I can connect them to and say, okay, they've done it really well. Talk to them. Me, I'm talking like the blind of color, as you would say, wie der Blinde von der Farbe. So I make a lot of connections. And if I see that I get a question asked 2 or 3 times, I just write like a blog post, like a blog post about it. It's a Google, it's super quick and dirty. It's a Google sheet, and then I can send it out again. It's like, okay, so how do I, convince somebody on the phone to work for me? And then I give some tips, write it down, and then I can send it out again and again and again. And so this is actually what we do. At the beginning, questions are really the same over and over, but then it really depends on, is it a serial founder? Is it a founding team? Is it German based? Is it international? So questions can be completely different. And then we help them usually through the first 6 months, and then they build up their business, and then when Series A and B is coming, we do follow-on investments, but other VCs also start investing, and then they work with other HR teams, and then I'm less involved. And then later on, when C-level hires are needed, we also try to support with the C-level hiring.
That makes sense. And then at what point do you typically see your portfolio companies hire their first internal HR person? Mm-hmm. And what typically do you advise them in terms of the skill sets that they should be looking for that person?
Yeah. So you probably can already guess my answer, that I like them to have an HR person as soon as possible, like right at the beginning. And it can also be somebody that grows with the company, and it can also be somebody that helps with other topics as well, with like office management or contracts and so on and so forth. So you don't need like a full-fledged head of HR right at the beginning. But for founders, it's like a vicious circle. Yeah, you need to hire, you need to do value-based hiring. This takes some time. As a founder, when do you, screen? You reach out to LinkedIn, or you find time to actually post that job description, but and then you need to screen the CVs. You need to make all those interviews. I can do Monday. Oh no, I can't. But then you also need to build your business. Yeah. So it's like, my question is, when do you plan to do this? Like at 4 at night? So I try to talk a bit of what the benefits of somebody being in charge for HR can be. And it's also about what I said before. It's the value-based hiring. You have somebody that can actually build good interviews with you, can build a good recruiting process with you that is valuable for the next 5 or 10 years. So that's why I hope the majority goes with somebody for HR early, and or with a clear responsibility. Yeah, we do have companies where the let's say the expansion manager is doing it, or where the growth hacker is doing it, but there needs to be clear responsibility, and not, okay, we all 5 founders will do it somehow. Yeah, so this is what I would say. And does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then flipping that question as well. If I'm an HR or people operations professional, and I'm thinking that maybe becoming the first HR hire within a reasonably early stage startup is something that I'm interested in. What would your advice be for me in terms of then evaluating whether it is the right thing that I should pursue, and what advice would you have for me to land a position?
Yeah. Well, how do you find out if it's the right thing for you to do? If you really if you really enjoy building things up from scratch and get your hands dirty. Yeah, and get your hands dirty, you need to, buy the paper for the contracts. Yeah. So then this will be good, and the HR person will be super close with the founders.
Mm-hmm.
And this means you also can, how do I describe this best? You're a vital part of actually building the culture and building the company for the next years, because you discuss strategies, you discuss profiles, you discuss team setups, you discuss organizational structure, because as soon as there is somebody with the HR head in the room, they will all look at you. If there's a question like, do we do English now or German? So what's best? So they look at you. So what do you advise? Yeah. So on the other side, if you find the right setup, and if you find the right founders that trust you, you are part of the majority of meetings. Yeah, so you get a lot of insights, and you learn so much also from the business and commercial side. So this is actually the thoughts I would have to think about. Would that be the right job? Yeah. And then there is that HR saying, everybody says, and it gets boring, but you don't pick the job, you pick the people you work with. And then this is something I would really pay attention. Yeah, first of all, do I like the product? Do I like what the company will build? But can I work with the founders? Are they inspirational? Can I trust them? Do I think they will trust me? Is that somebody I have fun working with? So this is what I would actually look for. And then it's a bit of an investment. Yeah, so you may not earn as much as you would with Zalando, but you learn so much. So it's definitely an investment in your career. And then once you build the next unicorn, you also have a big
Yes. Totally. Yeah. There's lots of valuable experience in there. Yeah, interesting. And then and would you say that there are any really common mistakes that you see, like not necessarily your portfolio, but just like the earlier stage startups making again and again, that you have to help them navigate?
Yes, but that's not just true for early stage founders. At the beginning, as a founder or as a manager or as a leader, you have to make trade-off decisions all day. Yeah, there is always like, do I join the management meeting, or do I go for lunch with one of my team leads, or do I watch, numbers for business? So you always have to make trade-off decisions, and therefore, especially at the beginning when there is a lot of speed and a lot of pressure, there are there are hiring mistakes happening.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first, I would say, I don't want to say mistake, but this is something I see a lot, that you hire somebody that doesn't really fit, but is available and meets your budget, or meets your budget. And then you find out, it doesn't really fit. And then the second problem comes in. Then you say, okay, he is better than nothing. Yeah, even though that person is only 80%, I will not let him go. And then, it goes down. And then it's only 50%. And then it's like, oh, we passed the probation period. What do we do? Of course, the person also can see and feel that. Yeah. So you have somebody disappointed on the other side, but dreams were so big. And then what do we do now? How do we manage? Yeah. So how do we tell him, employee number 5, that he was a wrong hire? Mm-hmm. So what do the others think? Yeah. So it's there's a whole issue around, and this I see a lot. So I do a lot of personal coaching with founders that have to do that tough talk. Yeah. And it's not necessarily saying we don't see you in this company anymore, but well, you're not our CTO. You are our best senior developer, but you're not the CTO. Yeah, and this is, and this is hard.
And what does that coaching conversation look like? Do you role play that conversation with the founders, or how do you guide them through that?
That too. So if it's necessary, that too. But I mean, we do invest in strong people, strong and smart people. So they're usually good in, but it's, first of all, it's all the legals and what can we do, but then it's really like, okay, so how do I phrase that? How, what is, I'm basically mirroring the other side. I'm usually either the employee or the team or the investors. So I'm like, okay, so what would your team say if you would deliver that message? And then it's like, they would probably think that's the right step. And I'm like, yeah. So, and then, I'm being the other person. I'm like, okay, so imagine we are in a conversation now. What would be important for me? Why do you think I did this and that? What would I need? And so on and so forth. So we're looking from a lot of different angles and really thinking about the situation, and then I can help, or help the founders with experiences from tough conversations. Yeah. So saying, okay, what I always say, okay, the message is clear, so you need to be strong with the message, but it's how you deliver it. Yeah, you can go out, out of that meeting and say, oh my God, I, just heard that I've been downgraded, but we had such a good conversation. I really understood why the relationship isn't broken. Of course, I don't like it. Yeah, and I'm a bit furious at the moment, but I haven't lost my face. Yeah. So I'm still okay. So I've been respected. I understood. Everything has been clear. So that's actually the outcome you want to have. And this is how we somehow, try to develop how that conversation goes.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned that you have your sort of like playbook as such for the first 6 months that you're able to give every portfolio company. Are there any like trainings or anything that you like absolutely insist on, or even just recommend that everybody goes through?
You mean from our founders?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Actually, no, we have nothing where we say, okay, we insist on, because we do believe that, at the point we invest, we do believe in those people. And what we do is we try to give them a family of founders and experience. So what we have is we call it the founders offsite. So we bring all founders together so they know about the other superpowers, and then and also start building relations, and then actually work among themselves. So this is one thing. And then we also offer learning sessions on the go when it's, let's say, when the topic is important. Like when COVID started, we did a lot on Kurzarbeit, on all of that. So, and then here we say, okay, it's important for you. I think I want you to join. Yeah. So this is actually what we do. But since founders are so different, there is no like one size fits all. And no, how do you say, no Gießkanne? No, where we say, okay, you all need to do this and that.
Yes.
At the moment. So we really try to, I mean, one of our values is founders first. So we really try to take a look at them and what they need in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we also usually ask, so where do you stand? What do you think is best now? How can we support versus being a bit, I mean, I probably wouldn't say, okay, I think you need to do the leadership training now. So, yeah.
Makes sense. And then switching back to your the people side of things within Cherry, what does a typical HR calendar look like for you? What are the processes that your team is responsible for? And what do you run? How frequently do you run them?
Yeah. So I mean, we do a yearly strategy. So these are the topics we want to tackle this year. This is where we want to become better at, and so on and so forth. So this is on the yearly basis. And then twice per year we run the performance review, which we do with Leapsome. So this is twice per year. And then in the meantime, let's say, so we do performance review June and December, and then March and October we either do a bottom-up feedback. So our partners get feedback from the team. And in March, we take a look at the organization itself. I run a quick survey saying, sometimes it's connected to our performance evaluation, where I ask, okay, so where are we good in? What needs to be improved? Where do you need help with? Where do you see our organization needs to develop towards to? So this is the yearly plan. And like I said, I think I did say it. We do performance evaluation, and then on a monthly basis, I mean I have to payroll, so this is most important for my team.
Yeah.
This I run.
That.
So this I run every month, and we also have. I mean, this is new. This is after homecoming. After COVID came in, we have a monthly homecoming where we say, okay, we'd like to, if it's safe and numbers are okay and people feel safe, we have everybody coming into the office, because we said we don't have those spontaneous water cooler talks anymore since we're such a distributed team. So we have everybody coming in and have some focused and dedicated team time. And the other 3 weeks where we don't see each other every month, we try to have virtual team stuff. Yeah, it can be like team trivia, or can be an escape room game, a virtual, but can also be a value deep dive, or last thing we have done was a README. You may know the manager READMEs, where all the managers like draft out how they work and and so on and so forth. Yeah. And we have done this for each of our team members, but a bit more personal. So they share their life stories and how they became the person they are at the moment, and they've shared some pictures of their childhood. So and then we will do a trivia based on that too. So I will show childhood pictures of my team, and then they need to guess who it is. Nice. And so this is what we do on a monthly basis, and on a weekly basis, I have most probably everybody else. I have Joe fixes with my team, with the broader team, with the partners, just to be on top of things and work.
And do you have frequent one-on-ones with everyone as well?
Not with everyone, because then I wouldn't be able to work anymore. But I have frequent one-on-ones with my colleagues, so with the HR team. So we have Monday, and then we have a check-in on Wednesday, and then I have a frequent one-on-one with our CFO, and then we get with one other partner based on the topic. And if it's necessary, I also join the management meetings.
Okay, excellent. And so for HR professionals on the outside looking into Cherry, is there anything that you think is particularly like unique about the way that you work or the structures that you put in place, or what would be most surprising for somebody learning about the work that you do?
I can share what was most surprising to me when at the beginning, I thought I would work a lot with our portfolio, but even if it's only 19 people, I'm quite busy with cherry topics, which is not bad, but I didn't expect that. So I actually thought, I work with 50 founders, and here, things run themselves, but it doesn't matter if you're 19 or 200. Topics are the same. And then we started having people on, I think I said that before, we started working or having people on the ground in our different hubs, like in Paris, or in London, or in Stockholm. And this meant setting up international payrolls. So in the hard times, I thought I'm turning into a global mobility specialist. And this is something I never wanted to be. So this was quite surprising for me. So I always said I moved into HR because I don't like, tax and Excel. And then I had it at my desk, which is also, something you learn in the coaching training, that always those topics come to you that you don't expect. So this was quite surprising. So I have more like tax and law topics on my table than I would have expected, which is not bad. I learn a lot, and it's also a personal challenge, to overcome the blockage of saying, oh, I don't like it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an interesting point that you make, that of course, as companies continue to hire more people remotely, then there's always going to be these issues of hiring people where they're based, and overcoming those challenges.
Definitely.
Excellent. And so final question from my side. Where do you see HR heading? What are you excited about? What are the trends that you've got your eye on, and you're hoping will happen over the next couple of years?
Yeah. So where do I see HR heading? I mean, HR is becoming more and more a strategic business partner. Yeah. So we as HR professionals really moved out of the reactive HR. I do everything I'm being told. Yeah. So HR, talent acquisition also, and so talent acquisition, business partners, learning and development, they more and more sit at the table with the decision makers, because having the right people in the right jobs is business crucial. And with the pandemic, you can also see that at the end, everybody's looking at HR. Yeah, it's either hiring, or at the end, if it's Kurzarbeit, all office is at home at Kurzarbeit, and who's sitting there has to, proceed all of the processes. It's HR. Yeah, it's business crucial, and therefore I can see there's a lot more coming, and especially now once the pandemic hit us, I was looking for playbooks or best practices on how to approach the new working world, or the new work, and there was nothing that really fit. Of course, there were companies that work remote, and some of them have been for a long time, like Yahoo, and I think Yahoo even moved back to in the office, but I think also was it IBM? I don't remember, but nothing really fit the current situation. Mm-hmm. And then it became exciting, because then I talked to all the HR people within our portfolio. They had the same, and then we were really looking at each other and saying, okay, so it's us. So we now need to decide how we are going to continue for the next 5 years. So we are writing the playbooks now. And then at the beginning it was a bit overwhelming. So where do I start? But then it also became really exciting.
Excellent. Well, that's a good note to end on, I think. So, Ulrike, this has been really insightful, and thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode of People Over Perks by Leapsome. We're available on the Leapsome YouTube channel and all major podcasting platforms, so you can hit subscribe to receive each episode as it's released. We also have an email newsletter and a Slack community where you'll find great resources and discussions on how to build a high-performing, humane and diverse company culture. You can find the link in the show notes, or you can head to the resources section at leapsome.com. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.